Let's both pretend.
Today on the news and why it matters, the IG report has finally dropped. We have our, I don't mean to brag, but we have our expert here to explain to you what you need to know.
Thank you.
Also,
not me.
No, I was talking about him.
Jason.
Also, the impeachment hearings, what you missed. Spoiler alert, not much. Got a lot coming up, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Monday. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by Mr. Glenn Beck himself, Stu Bergier, and chief researcher of the Glenn Beck program, Jason Buttrell, which comes in really handy today for us because we're basically, Stu and I are just going to sit here and let these two guys geek out over the IG report and what it all means.
Why do these things have to be so long? 500 words or 500 pages. That's insane.
Come on, you just got to speed read.
They just don't like me because I know that this guy makes me read all of it.
He reads all of it. He came in this morning and I said, you know what today is? And he went, yes.
Well, obviously, we've got a lot to get into. 500 pages to be exact. But first, we want to thank our sponsor, iTarget Pro. We had our iTarget Pro out over the weekend, and we were just sitting, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night. We were sitting there watching TV and also practicing with our firearms.
Firing off laser bullets?
Yes, firing off laser bullets. And, I mean, there were no holes in the wall. No one was injured or killed.
Yeah.
The couch is intact.
Didn't have to pay for all that ammo.
Yeah, because of iTarget Pro. Glenn, I know you know how important dry firing is.
Yeah, I mean, well, Jason's one of the guys who first started teaching me. I mean, one of the great things is Jason was actually, you were head of my detail at one point. Yeah. So I've spent 15 years being surrounded by really good military men. And so I'm pretty good. I'm a pretty good shot now. And Jason was one of the first who said, trigger control, brother. When you pull it, you got to pull it slow. You should be surprised every time it goes off. And when you pull that trigger, do you do this? Do you do this? That's what makes a good shooter a good shooter.
You got to go to itargetpro.com right now. I don't know if you can get it before Christmas. You got to go check because it's a great Christmas present for your dad, for your brother, for your husband,
for your daughter.
I'm being very sexist. I know.
Doesn't want to go to a gun range necessarily.
Yes.
It's perfect.
It can be very, very intimidating to go to the gun range. Use promo code NEWS. You will get 10% off plus free shipping. Promo code NEWS at itargetpro.com. So the IG report, it quote, the FBI fell far short and made, quote, serious errors in FISA application to surveil Trump campaign, but they did not find any political bias or any bias at the end of the day. It's funny, off air, we were kind of talking about, okay, this headline says this, but when you actually look at the report and what it says DOJ Inspector General finds that the FBI made 17 significant inaccuracies and omissions in the FISA application to spy on Trump campaign member Carter Page. And it says that these inaccuracies made the evidence appear, quote, stronger than was actually the case.
How is that not a problem?
Jason.
Well, it goes way beyond that. And I like that terminology because that's what I saw when this first dropped. I guess copies of this got leaked to the Post and a few other outlets. So they already had their analysis ready to go. And they use words like discrepancies, errors. But they claim but the predication, you'll see that a lot, for the opening of the Russian investigation. They said the predication was there. It was justifiable. They were not politically biased. And I think you can argue that. Because when you remember how this entire thing began, it was because someone that had Russia connections told Papadopoulos that Russia had damaging information, emails on Hillary Clinton. Okay, that right there, after the DNC hack already came out, all of these things happened. There's predication there to launch an investigation.
Right, and there should if Trump would have been advised by the right people, they should have told him immediately, call the FBI. Right. Because then all of this would have been done. Yeah. He didn't follow up on it, they weren't coordinating and everything else, but if he would have just said, hey, one of my guys heard this, just want to let you know, then you're in the clear.
So the investigation started, but when I got through 100 pages of this, I was like, I cannot believe how the media is framing this right now. Omissions and errors. Now, there's one thing, we were joking about this before. This is be kind of like my wife saying, you did not come home last night. And I'd be like, yeah, because, I went and had a late dinner and I spent the night with my ex. You know what I mean? Like that is not an omission. That's a lie. You're trying to cover something up. This is full. I got a ton of notes here. The entire thing is full of not omissions, which how they're being characterized, are errors, but straight up lies.
Give me an example.
So, several times they claimed that Christopher Steele was a credible witness and that he had given information before that had been used in criminal proceedings. So he was all of his information was corroborated.
True, except for the currently credible.
Actually, not true. His information was not used in a criminal proceeding.
Ever.
And the FBI knew this, but they said that anyway to give the appearance that this information we're showing you right now is credible. Now, we've also heard that, hey, this information, is corroborated. Again, the Inspector General said that we looked through, and after looking through all the FBI's follow-up investigations when they went and talked to Chris Steele's, sources across overseas, they did not corroborate one single thing that wasn't open source information. Not one. None of it.
So how is that an omission? Or what do they call it? A omission or an error?
An error.
How is that an error?
It's not. And they knew.
So
and
how do they say in here, excuse me, because I'm going to do my reading of this tonight, and I'll have full, examination of this on radio tomorrow. But let me ask you this. What do they claim was the motivation from the FBI for doing this?
Now, this is what they don't. And this is where this reminded me of, remember the Inspector General report based off of Strzok and Page's text messages, where I think we were all it was kind of a ridiculous thing because they said, yeah, all these crazy things happened. They said these insane things, but we can't really prove political bias because it's kind of hard to do. So they just kind of laid all this out and said, hey, this is on you to make that judgment. I think this is what they're doing here because they don't actually have any kind of interview or anything with them saying, yeah, we did this because we wanted Trump to lose and Hillary to win. They're not going to get that. And Horowitz knows that they're not going to get that. But after you read this, something crazy happened after they started the investigation. Then they started getting information that actually went against Steele's. They said not only did it not corroborate it, but it actually went against what he said. Completely contradicted what they said. They had this information. The FBI had it. But they still used it to further re-up the FISA investigations or warrants. So something happened between when it started and then when they started continuing these FISA, something at the highest level. And
meaning what? I know this is just speculation, but meaning like what?
Well, so check this out. Again, a lot of this has to do with the Steele investigation, but I'm going to quote from it here in a second. This is how everyone in the intelligence community did not believe in this, was very, very leery on the Steele dossier. And so this is according to FBI staff. As the interagency editing process for the ICA progressed, the Central Intelligence Agency expressed concern about the lack of vetting for the Steele election reporting. An FBI Intel section chief told the CIA it viewed it as an internet rumor. And that they put that in quotes.
Wow.
The FBI, including Comey and McCabe, sought to include it in the reporting anyway. So at the highest levels of the FBI, they said, no, we're still doing this. We know no one believes in it, but we're still including it anyway.
Okay, so this is amazing because I just finished the judiciary report on the show, and it states at the very beginning, we do not assume the president was doing things for the national interest. But they don't give him the benefit. They state it. We will not give him the benefit of the doubt in any of this. Well, this is the same thing. Yeah. And I don't want to convict the FBI, but I also think we need to answer that. And my thing on, do you send this now for a jury trial if you're in a grand jury, based on what they wrote? Yeah, I have to know the motivation, and I have to talk to the principals to know to know their motivation. Did they even attempt? Did the Inspector General even attempt to talk to them about motivation? Is there answers in there at all on why they said?
Not that I could find. They just said they could not. They didn't find evidence to say that supported that it was politically motivated, and they didn't even go into it. They actually said we don't want to speculate. Is what
don't speculate. Ask them.
Well, I think that's what Durham is there for, right? Because he has the ability to interrogate certain people who were involved in where the Russia investigation began, and he's actually come out and objected to the IG report. He said that he let them know last month.
Barr's testimony.
Yes.
I keep thinking about Raymond Burr because I want Perry Mason to stand up at the end and go, and this person's been in the courtroom the whole time.
Well, let me read Durham's quote really quickly, just because it casts a shadow on what the IG report, the conclusion says. He said, based on the evidence collected to date and while our investigation is ongoing, last month we advised the Inspector General that we do not agree with some of the report's conclusions as to predication and how the FBI case was opened.
See, now that's weird to me because I read their explanation for the predication of this.
Predication, define it.
That's what it says.
Original.
This is why we need to investigate.
The why.
This is the why. And that was because of the Papadopoulos thing, the DNC hack. I'm on board with them looking into that. In any case, I don't care who's in the office, I think that they should start it. So the predication isn't an issue for me. It's what happened after the fact.
But the predication, however, does kind of tie into our chalkboard. We know that Obama, Clinton, they were using the Ukraine to feed the Steele dossier and to come up with the other. So he may say, well, you're not tying in this information. And I know this information that the White House was doing this under Obama, and they were prompting this Steele investigation. They were trying to get things into that Steele dossier. Yeah. And so maybe that's why he's saying it. And
that's possible. I think it all kind of hinges on the Papadopoulos meeting where he was told. Over in Europe, I think it was in the UK or whatever. By that, was it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it revolves around that. So I don't have a lot of information on that. So I could end up being surprised. But I was going to say earlier is some of these omissions are just absolutely ridiculous. All the exculpatory information. So you read through some of these things, and they'd be like, "Yeah, we know Carter Page. He said this, or he went here." What they omitted was another paragraph underneath that said, "Oh, but Carter Page later was heard by our confidential source." That, hey, none of this is going on. We didn't do these things. I went and spoke to, the DOJ, and it was completely cleared. Like, I'm serious. It's almost that bad. They just did not include any of the exculpatory information. They completely omitted.
It was just an oops.
This is why the FISA process is so dangerous. Look how corrupt it is on a presidential candidate. That's where you should be so super. In the old movies, they would have said, "Oh, they're gonna hang me from the highest flagpole if there's one error in this thing. Make sure it's right." They're not doing that, and even when they do find out it's not right, they don't seem that all that pissed about it.
Do you have time for one more point?
Yeah.
So if you want to know if the FBI knew what they were doing, I think this says volumes about it. So we've spoken about, you have a lot, about the relationship with Orr, Fusion GPS, Steele, Bruce Orr, the DOJ. Mm-hmm. So they mentioned that Chris Steele was released for cause. That was a direct quote from being a confidential human source. And that was basically after they lost control of him. He was on their payroll, but he was also leaking information to Yahoo News with Mike Isikoff,
and is
like
that anywhere in the evidence they presented to the FISA court?
So they do mention that. Oh, no, that's not in the evidence of the FISA court.
Because
so Inspector General points that out and says, okay, so they released him for cause, but the relationship never continued. In fact, they had 13 additional meetings.
You mean never ended?
Never ended. I'm sorry, never ended. And under the rules for the FBI is once you release someone for cause, that means hands off. They're untouchable. We can't go to them. They can't come to us. It's just dead.
So why did that change?
So because I'm the only thing I can think of, and I just tweeted at Comey, which he probably
I'm sure he'll respond. I'm sure he'll
totally
respond.
But I think the reason why they continued this relationship, which included going to Bruce Orr. So Chris Steele would go to Bruce Orr, did this 13 times, and then Bruce Orr would then take that information directly to the heads of the FBI.
So wait a minute. I thought it was coming from his wife.
So no, it was coming directly from Bruce Orr, as per this Inspector General report.
That Steele was going
directly
to Bruce. Wow,
directly to Bruce. And then, so he's just doing this as a private citizen, not on direction of the FBI. Au contraire. So Bruce Orr testified to Horowitz that the FBI specifically told him, whenever Chris Steele has information, bring it directly to us. So they never ceased that relationship, only officially. Now that's what I tweeted to Comey. I was like, why'd you do this? Was it to get rid of oversight? You wanted this coup to be a secret. That's the only thing I can think of.
See, this is just enough information to make things worse. You know, there's doesn't seem to be anybody who's willing to say, here's what it is, and here's what we're going to do to correct it so it never happens again. I don't want necessarily somebody to pay. I just want to know what happened and how are you changing things so it never happens again. No one's even willing to tell the full truth. You can't tell me after 3 years, you still can't give me more than this?
Yeah. Oh, some people will pay. Some people are going to prison for this. One of the other things that came out, it was just reported about a month ago or a couple weeks ago, but one of the lawyers, FBI lawyers, his role was to, I guess, get some of these documents together so they could get these FISA applications. He purposely doctored an email so that it would look damning, so it would look like, oh, an actual bad thing happened to justify. Actually doctored it. They have him caught. He did this. He's now subject to a criminal investigation. He, for one, is going to court. He
shouldn't go to court. He should go to jail. It's FISA.
But there's no difference between all this.
I know.
All of this.
You know what's going to happen is exactly what happened with Epstein. Crime happens. Nobody, if he didn't kill himself, which I'm not saying he did, but if he didn't kill himself, any of the players that could have made that happen will not pay the price. It'll be the two guys who were asleep who doctored it. It'll all be pinned on them. So the average person, again, gets it in the end.
All right, impeachment circus when we come back.
This is Banana Republic stuff.
It really is. Hi, Sue.
Crazy.
Before we get back into the conversation, we want to thank our sponsor, realestateagentsitrust.com.
I want to talk to you about it because you told me afterwards that you and Stephen used it.
Yes. Well, so we haven't found our house yet, but we did. We went to the website and it was exactly as you advertised. We went, it's super easy. You type in your zip code and your information, and we had our real estate agent call us at 8 o'clock at night, which I was not expecting.
How long did it take him to call you back?
Less than 10 minutes.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, it really was.
We want to do it within an hour. We try to do it within 15 minutes because we want you to know we're there and we're going to answer.
And even, I mean, it was late, so I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they'll get back to us tomorrow morning. It'll be fine. And he got back to us that night. It was amazing. And he came and met with us, and we kind of came up with our game plan. Very knowledgeable. Absolutely. Very knowledgeable. Very available whenever we have questions. It's been amazing.
Good.
It's
I'm
been
so
amazing.
glad to hear it. I'm really proud of the real estate. They don't work for me or the company. All we do is refer. But we really spend our time to find the right people. And so they're all from different companies and different agencies, but they're all the right people. And so I'm just really happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's been amazing. So you can go to realestateagentsitrust.com if you were looking to buy or sell your house, especially those of you who are moving cross country. You don't know where the right places are for you and your family. You got to go to Real Estate Agents I Trust. Yeah.
So important.
realestateagentsitrust.com. So the impeachment hearing. Oh, man. Aren't you guys so pumped? It's been such a fun time listening to it every day.
Yeah.
So Democratic counsel Barry Burke, who also was a witness, which was odd, which the Republicans had sort of an issue with. But he started...
You mean one of the attorneys is also a witness? Witness? I object. Staying.
So he had quite an interesting opening statement, just to give you an idea of how he set the stage for this to be an entire circus the rest of the day. Watch.
Collins and all the members. Before I had the great honor of being a counsel for this committee, my young son asked me a question.
Oh, shut up.
He said, Dad, does the president have to be a good person? Like many questions by young children, it had a certain clarity, but it was hard to answer.
Right, like Nixon.
I said, son, it is not a requirement that the president be a good person,
like Clinton.
but that is the hope.
Right. I mean, think of the presidents that we could say were good people and good presidents. Less than half.
Yeah.
Less than half.
That's a great point. Stu, were you even tuned into the impeachment hearings today? So the question really is, do you love self-torture?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, it seems like they're just getting desperate now. I mean, this is like they're just extending this thing, longer than it really needs to be extended. Though, again, I don't understand the approach. I mean,
Well,
if you're going to go
today, the approach is clear why they're doing this. Well, you've got to fill today's news because of the IG report.
Yes. And so Collins, there was an interesting moment between Collins and Majority Counsel Daniel Goldman. Devin Nunes's number was included in, he had text between himself and Rudy Giuliani, as well as several reporters. And Collins was asking Goldman about, how they got this information, why they decided to include it. Kind of a tense exchange between Collins and Goldman. Watch.
You're not answering the question. And every member of the media, everybody here, when you start going into the decorum of this house, when you start looking at members' telephone numbers, you start looking at reporters' telephone numbers, which they ought to be scared about, you took a subpoena for 4. And then you decided to play match game. You found numbers that you thought were like, some of them actually didn't exist because they claimed that they were for the White House Budget Office, and they were not. So we're throwing stories out there because nobody was out there acting. So I go back to my question. Are you going to go on record in front of everybody here today and say that you will not tell who ordered this, you or Mr. Goldman? Mr. Goldman, you or Mr. Schiff?
I am going to go on record and tell you that I'm not going to reveal how we conducted this investigation.
And that's the problem we have with this entire thing. Mr. Schiff said behind closed doors.
I can tell you what the importance is.
I'm done with you for right now. We're done. You're not answering the question. You're not being honest about this answer because you know who it is. You're just not answering.
And you know what? It doesn't. Notice what he said. This is so progressive. Yeah, but I can tell you why. Well, no.
Right.
That's ends justify the means. Yeah. It's really, really important. We were trying to save lives. That's why we did vivisections on all of these children. Wait. What? I missed something. Did you do vivisections? Well, I'm not going to say. Well, who ordered those? I'm not going to say. But I can tell you we were trying to cure hypothermia. We were trying to cure cancer. I don't care what you're... Can we go back to this, please?
Yeah.
We're covering a little bit of this, I think, on TV tomorrow. But I've been trying to piece together from everything that random people on the committees have been saying about that specifically. And this is insane.
About the phone calls?
About the phone calls. So, excuse me.
Devin Nunes says they made it up.
So, well, I've seen something from him real recently where they talked about it was late September. Adam Schiff called everybody into the SCIF. And he said, so they automatically, when it's discussed in the SCIF, they're barred from speaking about it. So there's a real reason why he said it there. But he said, we subpoenaed some numbers. Here's 5 numbers. We subpoenaed these numbers for phone records. A couple weeks later, they got back from AT&T over 3,000 pages of call logs from numbers all over the place. They didn't even know who some of the numbers were. They just kind of picked and chose the ones that would make it look the most damning. So they said, oh, there's Nunes, all the times Nunes made calls. Boom, they put those on there. Private citizens, completely unmasked everything. They didn't put U.S. person 1 with this person here,
that's
2.
against the law.
I don't see, it's mass metadata is what they took, and they took whatever looked the most embarrassing or damaging, and that's what they chose to report, including a journalist. And what's most insane is every single journalist out there you would think would be screaming about this.
No.
They're not saying a word.
They only cared. This makes me so angry. Remind me of this so I can rant on this tomorrow. Do you remember the journalists that were so wanting to make sure that I was a part of this freedom of speech thing because, you got to wake up all the Trump people because he's going to come after us and he's going to start spying on us. And I said, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you all the time. Where were you during Barack Obama? Because I was there. So you don't have to ask me. I've already been here. But where are they now? Where are they now?
Crickets. All right, back in a minute.
Doing everything that they said Trump would do.
Coming up in overtime, do you want to talk about fake news? You've got MSNBC Chuck Todd over on Meet the Press.
Don't get me started.
Oh, I don't want to make Glenn's head explode.
I'm staying for overtime.
Okay. He's here to tell you that there was no meddling from Ukraine in the 2016 election. Please, what a conspiracy, Alex Jones.
Don't miss overtime. Don't miss it. Lots to